Hey, how you doing? So this is an interesting week. I see this as this is a week of setting a new scene for ourselves, a new kind of feeling. We've got the sun going into the sign of Cancer on the 20th, and the sign of Cancer, as the sun goes from 29 degrees in the sign of Gemini into the sign of Cancer, it crosses over one of our corner points, one of our crossing points. If you imagine, like, the ecliptic is essentially a great big circle which starts at 0 degrees Aries and it goes all the way around until it gets to 29 degrees in the sign of Pisces. And then you could dissect the circle in half from 0 Aries to 0 Libra. They are like the ascendant and the descendant in our sky, like for humanity, you could see them like that. And then you've got the other midpoints, which is 0 degrees Cancer and 0 degrees Capricorn. So as you go round every quarter, there's a 0 point in a cardinal sign. So it goes Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, all the way around. These are really important points. I spoke about them at quite a lot of length at the spring equinox, the March equinox forecast. So I don't want to go over things too much, but the 0 points are pretty energetic. And again, I'm talking about the Cancer 0 point in the solstice video that will also be released this week. So watch out for that if you are interested. But the 0 Cancer energy is very much about origins, I think, and very much about how we feel anchored and a sense of belonging to our home, our culture, our family, and all those things that we learn from our families and from our upbringings. It's knowing how we weather the storm. It's like our inner compass, our inner guidance system, the thing that keeps us alive. There's a lot about survival in there, I think, because it's at the very core and at the very heart of everything. I noticed that this full moon that's coming up, and this is the first time I've really mentioned it, but the full moon comes up literally 2 days after the season change, and the full moon, the moon is at 1 degree in the sign of Capricorn, and the moon and the sun is at 1 degree in the sign of Cancer. So both of these points are activated. So we've got 0 Aries, 0 Cancer. That's going to be activated at the time of the full moon. 0 Libra, 0 Capricorn. That's definitely activated at the time of the full moon. So we've got 2 of the points activated. And of course, anything that is activating or getting busy over a point, it's also activating in a square. So, what I'm fascinated by is the fact that we've got these entry points, these very sort of cosmic, sensitive points of 0 point, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, that are being activated at the time of the June solstice, and then 2 days later at the time of the full moon. Meanwhile, we've also got Neptune at 29 degrees in the sign of Pisces, which is just a smidge away from 0 Aries. So to me, it feels like there's something quite big going on in terms of humanity. These are points that relate to all of us, not just me or you, but everyone. It's like there is something big going on for people. And I think that's why the season changes are particularly significant. Something is marked. It's the longest day of the year in the northern hemisphere. It's the longest night in the southern hemisphere. It's something is changing and turning and evolving. So this full moon, then, it also comes after the new moon, and this new moon that we had 2 weeks ago. If you watch the video, like when I look at my new moon and full moon forecasts, I talk about the standard astrology, first of all, using the solar system that we know about or talk about or recognize. And then in the second part, I throw in some extra bits, trans-Neptunian objects, asteroids, centaurs, maybe a star, whatever is lining into the sort of fabric of the actual placements on that particular day. I put it in the chart and I interpret it. I think whatever is showing up in our awareness has a meaning. And I have to say, my last forecast had mixed feelings. You know, there's some people that are very triggered by it and possibly making it mean that I had separate views from them, and maybe we do, because we're all different people. And it's to be expected, because it was the new moon in Gemini, which is very much about the sort of rational belief systems that we can see around us. And yet, at the time of that new moon, I could see that it was connected by way of an opposition to the Great Attractor. Now, the Great Attractor, and what I'm going to talk about today, the Galactic Centre, are two really cosmic points that you can look at. They're both found in the sign of Sagittarius. So the Great Attractor is around 14, 15 degrees in the sign of Sagittarius. And then the Galactic Centre is sort of 27 degrees, I think. I will find out for sure. I mean, I could check right now, but, it's around that in the sign of Sagittarius. And I'm going to be interviewing someone called, a lovely, lovely astrologer, a galactic astrologer called Trassa from Goddess Inspire. I'm interviewing her next week. So I'll be talking to her more in depth about these. But the new moon was in opposition to the Great Attractor, which is allegedly the core of the universe, like right at the heart of the universe. It's the greatest known force that scientists talk about. It has a pull, a real sort of like magnetic pull. It's absolutely the biggest mystery, the biggest energy field that has been detected. And allegedly it's pulling loads of galaxies from far away into it. So it's big. It's like the point of creation and also the point of destruction. It's the place where it's the most powerful source that we could be aware of. And so, one of the things I was surmising just 2 weeks ago was how there are lots of different stories going on. We've got this ongoing Jupiter and Pluto trine, which is real big news, and lots of big news in particular about the mysteries and also salacious power and what happens when power goes wrong. The Gemini new moon was very much about his information. I can see this bit from over here, this bit from over here, and the way the Gemini mind works is to kind of skim a lot of things and include as much as possible and kind of fit it together and see how it works. It's not necessarily a deep dive into something, which could be a real kind of philosophical luxury, and it could also lead nowhere as well. It could lead right round in a circle. And so at the time of the new moon, I was really surmising that there's a bit of a split right now, and there's lots of people sticking to the surface data and what's easily apparent on lots and lots of different from lots of different sources. And there's also this kind of sucking energy saying, come, dive deep. And you will find things that could even take you much deeper into a mystery. You might never come out of it, by the way. And it's almost inescapable, So, I really think that in June, there was this feeling of a new awareness or a new energy that, is there some kind of existence information out there? Is there something that is teaching us about the nature of existence? Who knows? So, yeah, that had mixed results, and maybe I didn't quite articulate it in that way. Now we've got this Cancer 0 point that's just started, the June solstice starting on the 20th. And again, I'm going into that more from the level of origin and what it means to us about our security, our families, our home, the very nature of us. And so we've got this full moon, and this is where I've come back to. So it's taken me 9 minutes to say that, and my apologies, but thank you if you stayed with it this long. But this full moon at 1 degree in the sign of Capricorn is in a conjunction with the Galactic Centre. So it's in a conjunction with the center of our galaxy, which again has quite a magnetic pull. It has a lot of information for us, and it's encouraging us to go deeper. So what interests me is, the first one that we were really connecting with was that we were aligning with was the one like at the core of everything. But it was in opposition to us. It was like an invitation. It was saying you could learn lots. This one is in a conjunction with the core of our galaxy. So again, there's another invitation for us to dive really, really deep. Yeah, so lots to look at. I'm going to start by just looking at the surface layer of astrology, which might be enough for you, might not. And there's lots of goodies in there. But if you are interested in that more cosmic stuff, then stick around and I'll cover that at the end. Before I go any further, I just want to say thank you to everybody who sponsors this channel, who likes my work, loves it enough to say, here, have a coffee. Yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate you. It makes a difference. When I get one of those messages to say that someone supported me, that lights me up. So thank you so much. Right, let's have a look then. So this full moon in Capricorn after the solstice. So again, we've got the scene setting energy. There is a change. There is a note, like when you wake up one morning and you feel a sensation of fog, or you get up one morning and you get that sensation of a light, warm breeze, and you think, oh, there's the start of autumn, or oh, there's the start of spring. It's like that. It's like that awareness that something has just changed. It's just something subtle changing, but it's setting us on a new trajectory. Well, that's the energy that we've got right now. And the full moon is also capitalizing on that. So here's a copy of the full moon. Now, this is set to UK time because I'm based in the UK time zone in Portugal, in Europe. But you could set up the chart yourself for your own time zone. And what I would recommend that you use to do that is go to www.timeanddate.com, and they've got a sun and moon tab. And if you go down into phases, I think it is, it will give you the phases of the moon in your own local time zone, and then look up your chart. And there it is. Now, each time I look at these, I always highlight the thing that I think is most interesting. And yeah, Neptune's getting a lot of energy right now. In fact, I talk a lot about Neptune. Here he is in the solstice forecast. And I think Neptune, I'm going to be talking about Neptune with my galactic astrologer friend Trassa next week. Neptune, I think, is going to be the news that a lot of people are talking about. We've gone through Pluto season, and yeah, Pluto is going back into Capricorn and then coming back into Aquarius later on this year. But we've had a lot of a fanfare for Pluto. Jupiter's taken up our energy quite recently. And before that, we had Jupiter and Uranus in their conjunction. But now we are coming into the mystery of Neptune, as far as I can see. And I would also say that in the last couple of weeks, the people that I've been working with astrologically, a lot of them have had something around this point here, just where Neptune is right now. And I always say that's never a chance, it's not just a coincidence. It's just everyone I'm dealing with right now has something big going on around these degrees, whether it's a north node, whether it's an angle, sun and moon, there's something going on around this area. And to me, that's just showing that what is coming into our awareness right now is, we're starting to notice that this point here on the ecliptic in our birth charts is a sensitive area. So yeah, I'm going to be talking about this quite a bit. At the time of the full moon, there's also an opposition between the moon and Venus and Mercury. Venus and Mercury are not very powerful here. They're under the beams of the sun. They're in the sign of Cancer, though. So Venus in the sign of Cancer is really wanting to keep her loved ones around her and keep everyone safe and protected. And Mercury is not so gung-ho about information and being kind of emotionally distanced from it. Mercury now is learning information, at the time of this full moon, and actually getting quite stirred by it, and thinking, well, what is the point of that information? How does that help me? Does it make it harder for me? Do I have to defend people now? Do I have to defend people? Because obviously Cancer, the sign of Cancer, has sort of defensive qualities, with those great big pincers. So yeah, it's interesting. We're probably feeling a little bit tender. So, Venus, like I said, is kind of getting her flock close to her. The sun brings our attention into the yumminess, but also the vulnerability of Cancer. And again, at the start here, I was saying this is bringing us to the idea of our origins, our home, our anchor, like what is anchoring us in this life, in this reality right now. on a day-to-day level? What is your familiarity? What is your security? And during that time when you might be so worried about keeping yourself safe, the moon is in Capricorn pretending like nothing is happening. Because if you know anyone with moon in Capricorn, you'll know that, they try and downplay the emotions as much as possible. They try to just deal with the emotions, know that emotions happen, and yes, we can deal with it. We just need to take a step back. So, it's an interesting full moon, where there's a lot going on underneath the surface, and yet out in public, we're just pretending it's just business as usual. Now, whilst this is going on, like I said, we've got this T square. So the sun is in a square to Neptune, and then the moon is in a square to Neptune. And so, you might want to think, okay, so the sun and the moon are in opposition. That makes us quite insecure. We tend to feel a lot more stirred, a lot more tense. Often around the time of the full moon, we're starting to feel like our bodies can't quite hold it anymore. So it's quite normal for people to feel a little bit overwhelmed, full up, stirred, like they're about to burst. They can't quite hold it all in. They can't quite get themselves together. So, we've got this kind of deep restlessness, which this can create. And then there's Neptune, which is in a square. Now, Neptune squares are not easy. I have a Neptune square in my birth chart. So, Neptune is like a spectrum, I think, of creativity. And, like we've got a spectrum between left and right, up and down. There are midpoints along. So we can plot everything out, and you can look at creativity. I think Neptune, is a spectrum of creativity, but also connection. And so when you are highly connected and highly creative, at its most positive expression, you may well feel that you are exalted, and that you lose a sense of who you are because you just connect with everything in a really beautiful and creative way. I see that as an absolute full-on awakening experience. And then at the sort of like negative end, and not to label things as positive and negative, but just to be able to identify this, it's kind of important, I think. But the sort of other end of creativity and connection is we don't want to connect with ourselves. We try to lose ourselves. We try to forget who we are. And so we use that creative impulse to be distracted and amused, and we do everything we can to forget who we are. So, at one end of this spectrum of Neptune, I think we are exalted and we forget who we are because we're in bliss. And the other one, we're in a different kind of bliss, not necessarily peaceful bliss, but a self-induced and sometimes boozy or vicarious distraction, and we lose ourselves that way. So Neptune's can be seen as a bit of a deceiver. It's where we lie to ourselves. It's where we might gaslight ourselves, where we might doubt ourselves. So, if you are going through a spell of doubting yourself, not believing your eyes, like you're feeling something, and then people around you are telling you that black is white and white is black, you may well start to doubt yourself after a while. And Neptune is nearly always involved in these kinds of interactions, and when something Neptunian is going on in our chart, or something is stressing out our natal Neptune, or if, like me, you're born with your sun or your moon in a square to Neptune, then you can go through these phases of suspending your belief, like you are influenceable, like this is a time of influence. Now, is that influence good? Is that influence bad? Is it right? Is it wrong? Is it truthful? Is it dishonest? We never really know because again, whose judgment are you taking as this is true and this is false? Who is the ultimate authority? We have these laws around us that tell us what is right and wrong. And can we trust the people who are at the top? Can we always trust them? How do we actually know that? And so, a lot of the time we have to suspend our disbelief to believe in the mechanisms we've put in place to help us feel safe. So interesting, isn't it, that we've got Neptune and the sun and the moon. So we're feeling tense, and at the same time, this tension spot is absolutely in its middle, its midpoint. There's Neptune. So one of the things that's making us tense is it us doubting ourselves? Is it us realizing something and then wishing we didn't need to know it? Is it the realization of something that we fooled ourselves on? Is it, like the rug could be pulled from beneath our feet at this time. It could also show that to cope with life and to cope with this tension that we've got, that we might actually be trying to lose ourselves in a different way. We might think, you know what, like we don't want to handle the truth, or, we don't want to handle the full potential of the creativity at our fingertips, or the connection at our fingertips. We might actually just want to disconnect, where it's easier, it's simpler, and where we can just kind of put our blinkers on, our headphones on, and sit in a quiet place where we're not overwhelmed. So this is quite sensory. I do think Neptune can influence us on many different levels. It's really multi-sensory, and I think it's activated in those senses outside of our perception. So we might know something, but we're not really seeing it with our eyes, our real ears. We're not really feeling it with our actual skin. However, we are absolutely feeling it, hearing it, and seeing it, and we can't quite describe it. And so I think Neptune is always easier, for people who are able to suspend the disbelief a little bit and to say, okay, well, I wonder what that might mean. And just that little chink of openness can then help you have a fuller experience where, yes, you do feel something that, no, it's not in your physical body, but you know that you can trust that feeling. Or do you? Confusing times. So I do think this, and Neptune so close to this point, is dissolving our sense of who we are. This point here, the 0 point of Aries, is absolutely about our identity. And 29 degrees Pisces is kind of at the end of the current story. So, our identity as humans, as you in your own right now, it's changing, it's turning, it's evolving. It's kind of dissolving away, which is a very sort of Pisces thing. So yeah, this full moon is pretty cosmic. If you believe that as you dissolve reality around you, you might just float away and you might feel great. You might be able to let go of all those cares and worries. Of course, it could be quite horrific if you want to really stay in the stories of what's going on right now, because it's safer to see and sense everything with your real senses, your real eyes, your real ears, your real skin, your nose, your taste buds. Neptune takes everything that's real and makes it unreal. And of course, the unreal and the real exist hand in hand all the time. So this is quite trippy. It's as trippy as you want it to be. But at the time of the full moon, for those of you that just want to run and hide and say, actually, I don't really want to experience this multi-sensory voodoo that Louisa's talking about, you might be better off, soothing yourself a little bit, just and thinking ahead of time, how can I find more calm, more peace in the reality that I trust? So if that's what you're needing right now, do what is right for you. Do what helps you feel calm and real. And for me, I'm able to sort of suspend my disbelief and consider that there are lots of different truths presenting themselves at the same time. And for a long time, I went, this is the truth. And then I was like, oh, that looks more compelling. And then that, and after a while, I just realized that I can't physically know what is actually truthful. Like, I can't know the truth of anything that exists outside of myself. I can barely know what's real for me right now in this body. So I just really focus when I feel overwhelmed or stressed. I really just focus on what I know right here, right now. I focus on my actual real feelings, my real senses, what I can see, hear, taste, touch, smell. And I put it through a few different tests like, do I know the people in this truth? You know, am I in the same situation? Often a lot of the things that become our reality are completely out of our, you know, there's nothing we can actually do to control them at all. And I'm not saying, you know, turn your phone upside down, but, and this might be another one of these videos that gets people going, oh God, unsubscribe. But hey, you know, this is what I'm seeing. And if this is for you, I'm pretty sure you'll stick around. So, yeah, these are interesting times. And I'm pretty sure that by, you know, between now and 2026, like spring 2026, when Neptune has fully transited over this point, the North Node has completely gone that way and Saturn is completely gone this way. You know, all of these energies are kind of clearing and getting more real. I think we'll have a very different relationship to life. I really think things are changing in a major, major way at the moment. Much bigger, actually, than the obvious COVID era. I think something much bigger is on the way. Anyway, this full moon carries the seed of this. You know, this full moon is really carrying the themes of this, the seed of this. And yes, later on in July, we have another full moon in Capricorn, but you know, it's not connected to the Galactic Centre. In fact, it's connected to Pluto, which could bring up a whole different you know, a whole different emphasis. But, you know, this is a seed point of a future. This is a seed point of what's being birthed right now. Last thing I want to comment on this in terms of the actual astrology is we've got this opposition between Vesta. So Pluto, now I don't talk about Vesta very often, but Vesta is at 0 degrees, and that's why it got my attention. Pluto, obviously, I've spoken about quite a lot over the years, and I've done a whole Pluto playlist, etc. But Pluto I see as being a controller, shows us the lengths we'll go to retain control. Pluto shows us how comfortable we are to surrender. I often find that a run-in with Pluto is best handled by surrendering. Because when we surrender, actually, things move a lot faster. There are some things we can control, some things we can't. The only thing we can really control is what's going on inside us, our reaction, and how we choose to be in that moment. Now, Vesta is a goddess to do with the hearth and the heart of who we are, to do with our core truth. She is also known as Hestia. Vesta is like a Vestal Virgin. She is so pure that she sees beautifully, perfectly. She knows how things are. You know, it's the core truth inside you. And I always think when I talk about Vesta, you know, in my head, I don't know if you can't see my hands, but in my head, I'm rubbing my solar plexus area because I'm thinking of my truth. I'm thinking of my core. I'm thinking, I'm really, really sort of zeroing in on that gut that tells you everything you need to know. You know, are you having a gut reaction about things? You know, that's a real sort of Vesta thing. So it's interesting at the time of this full moon, we've got Pluto controlling things and telling us what's what. So there's this idea of the truth and power and the certainty that comes with Pluto, and yet under, you know, sort of undermining Pluto's truth and certainty is this sense of, actually, that my core isn't in agreement with that. So it might be also worth observing what you're feeling in your body more than usual, because, you know, we get so used to just like hearing this is how it is, this is how that is, this is what you should think about this, and this is the new way of talking about this. And, you know, there are all these like standards and ideas. And, you know, for a lot of it, we just go along with these, you know, we go along with things. And yet actually underneath, there might be something growing within you that's saying, hey, did you forget to check in with your instincts? So, yeah. Interesting times. Anyway, let's have a look at the asteroids, because I think this is going to get a bit more interesting. And before we go there, I'm just going to bring up the new moon in Gemini. So I did talk about it in the introduction, but the Great Attractor, like I said, central gravitational force in space, affecting entire galaxies, the heart of our galaxy, transmitting light codes, a hologram of truth, bending time and space. Like the whole idea that everything is like collapsing under the energy of the Great Attractor. There's the Great Attractor there, and there's the new moon. So we've seen what it looks like with a Great Attractor and that great big grand square with lots of different meanings. Now we've got the full moon in Capricorn, and up here we've got this very sort of like powerful T-square, I would say. We've got the Galactic Centre, trans-Neptunian object Varda. Down here we've got, I think, Apophis, Asbolus, and Chaos. I'll be talking about them in a sec, but let's have a look. So the Galactic Centre is here. So again, very much like the Great Attractor, which is the center of the universe, the Galactic Centre is the center of our galaxy. Getting to the core of things, the cosmic core, the heart of the matter. And it's a galactic spot, so it's got a lot to do with our purpose here, our incarnation. If you believe that you are here for an actual real reason, sometimes we forget, like if, sometimes we don't even consider, am I really here for an actual purpose? I'm pretty sure you listening to this channel means, you do believe you've got a purpose. And sometimes like life can hide that from you. Sometimes it's a struggle to like tune in and realize, wow, this is my life and I'm here for a reason. How am I being my galactic self right now? How am I being my soulful self right now? So yeah, the full moon here is really pulling us back to, what do I need to do to really reflect who I am? So the moon is there. And, like I was saying in the astrological part, the moon in Capricorn is quite cool. It tries not to get emotional about things. And actually, it does step away. It steps out of the immediate emotions. It steps out of the very human drama. And it looks at things very practically and from a distance. And of course, you can't really get much further than looking at it from a galactic perspective. When you take your perspective so far out, all of our human dramas just seem to diminish. I'm not suggesting that what's going on for you right now is in any way small. It probably feels big. I know what my traumas feel like. They feel really big and absolutely personal. And yet sometimes we're able to shift our perspective. And in that moment, realize that what's going on for you right now is just part of a string of circumstances, situations, that we might be learning from. We might be like learning and demonstrating to others what's going on. I think we're all actually working with each other without realizing it. We're all showing up to help each other on our way. I firmly believe that. So, this full moon is maybe, if you're open to it, connecting you into the heart of who you are and what things are going on and giving you that expanded perspective. It's also in a conjunction with trans-Neptunian object Varda. Now, Varda was, and again, I'm not an expert on this. I was just doing a little bit of research behind the scenes, but Varda is known as being Tolkien's Queen of the Stars. And the whole idea of her is that she created the stars and the constellations. So isn't that funny that Varda and the Galactic Centre are both at 27 degrees in a conjunction with the full moon, really saying that our attention, whilst it might feel like our attention needs to be down here in our very human life, in our very real guts and glory kind of existence, that actually our intuition, which the moon represents, our instincts are reminding us that we can have a longer, further perspective. And actually, like if you knew that you were a citizen of the stars, or if you knew that maybe you had a whole grander purpose, or you were part of something much bigger than what's going on right here, you might feel, I don't know, a little bit more responsible, a little bit more, I don't know. But I just think that when we look at our lives through a different lens, through a different perspective, we have a new understanding and something comes from that. So they're the conjunctions with the moon. Let's look a bit deeper. And now we've got the oppositions. And then interestingly, the oppositions are really, really different and actually quite opposing to these conjunctions. So these conjunctions, like the Galactic Centre, the idea of, that there is a deeper truth, that we get to the heart of the matter, the cosmic core, the origin, the birthing point, and, that maybe we are of the stars and the constellations, we're made of star stuff. And then Apophis, the Egyptian god of darkness and chaos. Funny that chaos comes up. Apophis is the serpent, and I wrote a couple of words about it, actually. Where are my notes? It's like a serpent of destruction that is destroying the universe. Apophis is this destruction force, a serpent destroying the known universe. It's an Egyptian god. However, it's a blessing in disguise. So whoever Apophis is, whoever this serpent is that is destroying the known universe, they are creating destruction, but there is a regeneration. So, we can stay in our very, very human story and become part of the destruction and regeneration phase. Interestingly, and it's saying a blessing in disguise. So we might experience the destruction only to then later realize, well, thank goodness that happened, because actually it was taking a lot of energy, a lot of psychic energy to keep these patterns up. Thank goodness that collapsed and gave me a new perspective. We've also got Asbolus, who is a centaur who was gifted with the gift and curse. Some people think it's a curse. They had the opportunity to see into the future. They could see the trends. They had an instinct for it. They just knew what was happening. And he spoke about what was about to happen and this great big catastrophe. And nobody listened, because he could see things that other people couldn't. He just knew that things were coming. Nobody listened to him. He went to a particular wedding where it all kicked off. A couple of centaurs got killed, including Chiron. Asbolus got kind of crucified with a load of arrows. He just got absolutely taken down. He was absolutely martyred, But Asbolus can also show where we're kind of sick of knowing, where we really don't want to know, because, it does feel a bit of a curse. Nobody's listening anyway. So what's the point? And again, that is absolutely sort of rooting us to the story, the human story that we might need to protect ourselves, the human story that we might need to defend ourselves, and we might need to know everything, because if we don't know everything, how can we, protect ourselves from what might be coming? And then the last one is chaos. Oh my goodness. So we've got these two very lovely kind of star-based conjunctions, and then we've got these three that are all about the destruction, the death, the chaos that's going to happen or may well happen, which is in a conjunction with the sun. So asteroid chaos is actually, the unlimited creative potential that comes from the moment where everything was created. It is like the seed point of creation in the beginning. But it's not the sort of in the beginning there was nothing. It's like in the beginning it was all like disorder and anarchy, and that it was all just chaos. And then all of a sudden a pattern came to be. Something got regulated, something came into consciousness, something started to order itself. And so very, very fascinating that we've got these forces, these energetics working at the time of the full moon, really, really creating a new story. Now, there's also this point here where we've got Borasisi, and I never know how to pronounce her name, Circe, or I think it's Circe, but I could be wrong. Anyway, let's have a look. So we've got these already accounted for, but Borasisi is, and I'm going to flick to Alex's Asteroid Astrology. This guy's amazing, by the way, Alex Miller. You can check out a lot of his words about particular asteroids. He's really great. He's got, I could actually show you, he's got mythic named asteroids, like blogs doing research on different high attention cases that you might see in the news and media, which is kind of interesting. But anyway, Borasisi is the name of the solar creation deity, also an actual son of the fictional world, which forms the basis of a religious cult in the novel Cat's Cradle. The religion is a conscious collection of lies told to oneself in order to be happy, beliefs purposefully adhered to, although they understood to be falsehoods. Is it a bit like white lies? You know, we tell these white lies to our kids because we know that they'll be happier, you know, living by this kind of pseudo truth. But I mean, if you think about it, like the deception, you know, with a religion of lies, you know, if Borasisi is any indication that we need to be careful. It's interesting that Borasisi is also in a conjunction with Neptune. And I was talking about how Neptune, we may choose to pacify ourselves and accept the way things are, but it might come at a cost, you know. So, you know, we could awaken ourselves, and that could lead us into a feeling of disorientation. It could lead us into a feeling of dis-ease and discomfort. But then you've got possibly the truth of what might be going on. And then on the other hand, you might think, okay, I'm just going to stick with this is the truth I'm ready to accept, and I'm not going to accept anything else. And if you try and give me anything else, I'm just going to block everything. I'm going to barricade myself in with my truth. I know it's the truth. I'm going to stick to it. And that might involve some numbing. And so, you know, these are also very much archetypes. If you think of the Cancerian crab energy, which has its really big shell, because actually internally it's really, really vulnerable. It's soft meat. It's soft inside a crab. You know, it needs its shell to keep it hard and to keep it safe and protected. And so, you know, there are these energies. I wonder what it would be like to be able to integrate the two patterns. Is there a balance point where we can feel comfortable with accepting new information, comfortable where we can maybe consider we are part of a larger story, part of a larger cosmic inheritance, and also recognize that maybe there have been some lies on our journey, and be okay with that? You know, is it possible we can find that balance point? So interesting that, you know, Borasisi is right in the middle, suggesting that there might be lies about space. There might be lies about what actually happens in the real world as well. And then the last one says, the way others can transform us against our will, magical trickery. Interesting. You know, Alex has a lot to say on his channel about Circe as well. So she was a sorceress, and she could transform people into animals if she chose. You know, if she didn't like you, if you weren't much used to her, you know, she would transform you without you knowing. So interestingly, it's interesting that Neptune and Circe and Borasisi are all together, because it could be that if you accept what you've been told as your truth, and if you maybe don't question things, you may well be part of, I don't know, a magical trick. Is there something going on to trick us? You know, like, what is going on right now? And it's interesting, isn't it? Because I understand that as I'm saying all these things, there could be people of different religious backgrounds thinking yes for completely different reasons. And there could be people from different political persuasions thinking, yeah, the other side are tricking themselves and it's a spell and it's evil. And then the other side could be saying the same for the other people. You know, I just recognize there's lots of people thinking similar thoughts, or a similar vibration of thoughts, but for completely different reasons. So to me, this is an interesting point, this full moon in Capricorn. You know, so if I was to sort of break it down, you know, I think I would say, how comfortable are you to ask questions? How comfortable are you to consider that life might be different. How comfortable are you to live with other people's rules, judgments, and values? And is it costing you? And also, how much is it costing you to live outside of the common consensus? I think these are going to be things that are discussed a lot more frequently. You know, there is a comfort in being in the consensus, but there might be a numbing point in that. So yeah, big stuff. So there you go. They're just some thoughts in terms of this particular full moon that's coming up. And like I said, there is another full moon in Capricorn. I'm also talking about the next season, which, like I said earlier, right at the start, starts on the 20th of June. So we've got the summer season, or the winter season if you're in the southern hemisphere. So listening to that if you want the actual broken down forecast for each star sign from their ascendant. But anyway, I hope that's helpful. If I can be of any help to you, if you're feeling a little bit torn, a little bit confused, if you're wanting to use your creativity and explore creativity, your own truth, getting to the core of it, or if you're wanting to understand how you can observe it all but also live in your own way, then, you know, let's talk. Just drop me a line. All of my details are below underneath. Just book yourself into my diary and we can take it from there. But anyway, lots and lots of love to you, and hopefully I'll connect again real soon. Bye for now.